Moscow's military continues to close in on the capital of Kyiv in Ukraine. Delegates from both countries are meeting right now, at least that's what we are told, near the Belarusian border. What those talks could mean is still a bit unclear. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy saying Sunday that while he does not believe in the outcome of these meetings, he supported the talks proceeding so that citizens of Ukraine would have no doubt their president tried to stop the war. NewsNation's own Leland Vittert joining me right now. He's a veteran foreign correspondent. He spent time in Ukraine. Have we heard anything as of what has come out of this meeting yet?
Not really, and in a way you could probably read this as just another one of Vladimir Putin's head fakes. Remember, he's the guy who said he was never going to invade a foreign country. Then he said that he was withdrawing troops from the border, and now he's saying, well, I'm going to sit down for peace talks. And back during the 2014 Russian invasion of Ukraine, you saw the same thing, that as Putin was encircling towns and shelling them and bombing them, he was saying, oh, let's have peace talks. I'm ready to have peace, and we must have dialogue, and on and on. He's an expert at playing to the West's and America's desire and ideals that diplomacy and talking and agreements can work out. You might equate it to a guy who's debating over says he's going to negotiate over a pizza while he continues to eat the pizza that you're negotiating over.
Well, and you know what? I think about The Art of War, the military strategy book that's ages old, and knowing your enemy. Is he appearing to be more flexible, and then he's going to end up doing something extremely Putin-like?
Right. Vladimir Putin's famous as saying that there's no such thing as an ex-KGB man, and he was trained by the KGB. So, sure, this is what he does. He wants to play to everyone's sensibilities, an idea that there could be peace and desire not to continue to have bloodshed. Meanwhile, we understand that there's a column of Russian military vehicles about 3.5 miles long worth of artillery surrounding Kyiv and moving in that direction. The real danger here, and when you say something very Putin-like, is that the Russians do what the Russians are trained to do. And Russian military doctrine says that at the time that your conventional forces get bogged down and involved in a humiliating fight, which is what's happening right now, and the potential for a street-to-street combat situation fighting an insurgency in Ukraine that the Russian forces are going to lose, you bring out tactical nuclear weapons to force capitulation upon the enemies. That's their doctrine. That's not U.S. doctrine. That's Russian doctrine. And there's real fears that we're at the point where they may begin to start moving in that direction, Adrienne.
Well, it seems as though it would be very wise for Ukraine to understand their enemy at this time in order to have any type of advantage in this. Belarus notoriously has been an ally of Russia. So the geography of this meeting, what does that signal?
Yeah. Well, you can imagine you could be easy to call the sincerity of Vladimir Putin into question. If you're going to negotiate a meaningful peace deal and you want to show goodwill towards your enemy, the idea that you are having them negotiate in the country in which there are thousands of tanks, hundreds of helicopters, and tens of thousands of your own soldiers stationed to come attack that country, attack Ukraine, it certainly calls the sincerity of Vladimir Putin into question, although I'm not sure it was ever really something we needed to worry about. The bigger point you said about knowing thy enemy in terms of the Ukrainians, also helpful for the United States to remember and be clear-eyed who Vladimir Putin was. 3 U.S. presidents, President Bush, President Obama, and President Trump, all thought that they could best Vladimir Putin. And we talked about this, Adrienne, a number of times on the show. All 3 of them were humiliated by Vladimir Putin. Joe Biden thought that he could manage Vladimir Putin as well. We've seen the result of that. So in terms of understanding and trusting that Putin may very well do what the worst case scenario is something that needs to be kept on the table.
Leland Vittert, we appreciate your time. I know the background behind you is not familiar. Well, it is familiar. It's not your living room, but it is D.C. I know that you're going to be bringing the latest reports on your show tonight ahead of President Biden's State of the Union. You can watch Leland every weeknight on NewsNation starting at 7 Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.